Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to our live session this morning. My name's Melissa and I'm one of the hub officers at Higher Horizons and I'm based at Keele University. So today what I'm going to be talking to you about is vocational routes. So this means basically anything you can do after college, after high school that's vocational and what careers this can take you into. So I think first we'll go through the aims and objectives of the session. So hopefully we'll learn a bit more about post-16 vocational options, and this means what you'll do after high school. So what you might do at college, what you can do at university, or what you can do as a career afterwards. And we'll also learn why you might decide to take a vocational route as opposed to perhaps A-levels or a more academic route. And we'll also discuss some of the examples of vocational routes you can take. Now, the vocational routes we'll go through might not be applicable to everyone, but I think it's nice to give an overview of the kind of subjects you can do that lead on to specific careers. And it might come in handy when you're discussing what to do after high school with your friends, what comparing courses you might take, and just give you a good overview of what's out there for you. So first we'll discuss, what does vocational mean? You might have heard this word thrown around by teachers, you might have heard it in careers sessions, and vocational essentially means education that's directed at a particular occupation and its skills. So they're really designed to help you learn in a practical way about a specific job area. So they can help you get the skills you need to start a job, or go to a career, or go on to higher education. And these are often quite much more in depth than an A-level. Compared to an A-level where you might do 3-4 subjects, often at vocational people just take one subject. So if you know what job or job sector you want to go into, you might want to study a vocational qualification. Next we'll look at what is further education. We're going to sort of debunk some of the terms you hear thrown around, and then that'll hopefully help you in the future when you're doing careers sessions in school. If you know what they mean, it's a lot easier to understand where you're going after high school and what all these different terms mean. So further education is basically everything you do after high school that's before university level. So this is college level courses, it's if you do an apprenticeship straight after high school, and it's also if you do A-levels and BTECs, NVQs, things like that. So it's an opportunity for you to study your favourite subjects in depth and to pursue a particular career. And it's also known as the transition period between school and higher education. And this is an opportunity for you to find out what you really like to study. Some people change their mind after this, and some people decide this is really what I enjoy and what I want to do in the future. Then after that, there's the opportunity to go on to higher education. Now this is after you've turned 18 and is university level courses, but this doesn't necessarily mean you have to do a degree straight away if you take a vocational route. As we'll look at in a bit, it's broken up into a few more stages and you've got the opportunity to work for a bit and then go back into higher education if that's something you think you'd enjoy. So what is higher education? It's a programme of study at level 4 or above, and higher education institutions include universities and colleges. You might not have heard the levels yet. We've got a little box in the corner of the presentation just to explain what the levels mean. At the moment, if you're in year 10 and 11, you'll probably be doing GCSEs, which means you're studying at a level 2. If you're in year 9, you're not quite onto level 2 yet, but you're just preparing for your GCSEs, and I'm sure you've picked your options by now. Once you move on after high school, you'll be at level 3. A-levels and BTECs are at the same level, so once you go to college, you might hear you referred to as on a level 3 course. And as we'll look at, there are lots of different courses at this level. After that, you can progress to higher education, as I've mentioned. And this means once you reach level 6, you have a full degree essentially. But as I've mentioned, you don't have to do all the levels at once. I think we can sum this up nicely now by having a look at the pathway. So I'm going to presume most people watching this are from year 9 to year 11. So you'll be thinking about your GCSEs. You might have decided what your favourite subjects are at the moment, and you might be really thinking that there's a specific job that you think you might like the sound of. You might like IT, which could lead to working as an IT technician or something like that. Or you might really like your sciences and want to go and work in the healthcare field. After the GCSEs, you tend to go on to A-levels, BTECs or apprenticeships. One of my colleagues is going to talk a bit more about apprenticeships in a future session. So this week we're going to focus on college things such as BTECs. After that, you've got degrees and degree apprenticeships, and after that you've got your career. So hopefully that just gives you an overview of the terms you might hear in this presentation and also in the future, and that'll help you understand where you can go. So we'll look at the middle one on this. As I've mentioned, we're going to focus on BTECs and the sort of vocational courses you can do. So a BTEC is generally 2 years of study, and that's if you take an extended diploma. This gets you a full qualification equivalent to 3 A-levels, and it's generally a lot more coursework based than an A-level. That's not to say BTECs don't have exams. They sometimes do have, you sometimes are examined by actual formal exams, but BTECs are continually assessed, whereas A-levels might be assessed at the end of the 2-year course. Most people study one subject at BTEC, but there is the option at some colleges to combine this with A-level subjects. It's worth checking if your school has a sixth form, if you have to do just A-levels, just BTECs, or you can combine them, and have a look at what local colleges do. As there's so many options out there, there'll probably be subjects you've never even heard of that you can study. Once you go to college, your programme is generally structured, like you can see on the screen, hopefully. So an extended diploma at BTEC level means you'll do one subject in depth, which is divided into modules. You might spend about 9 to 10 hours a week in class studying this subject. As well as at college, you'll probably have an hour personal tutor time, which means time you'll learn about how to apply to university, how to apply to jobs in the future, and time to speak to your tutor if you have any questions about anything. As I mentioned, BTEC's extended diplomas are quite coursework based. This has no exams, but now that has changed a bit, and there are a few exams on some BTECs. But as you're researching for college options in the future, it's worth asking the staff at the colleges how you'll be assessed. If you're thinking, well, I'm not the best at exams, I'd much prefer to do coursework, it's worth asking them if that qualification has exams on it. BTECs also like you to get work experience in them, and most courses will have an element of work experience. For example, in childcare and education courses at BTEC level, you might be expected to work in a nursery as a trainee teaching assistant or something like that to get work experience, which is a really good opportunity. Sort of test out the career before you fully go into it. So some places will do a combined programme, and this means you can study a BTEC diploma alongside 2 A-levels. I know, for example, if we think of our local area, Newcastle College does this, and some of the other colleges in the area as well. So it's really worth looking at the different courses. Even if you're in year 9, it might feel a bit too soon, but it's never too soon to start looking at what's out there for you after high school. The difference between an extended diploma and a diploma is fewer UCAS points. Now, you may never have heard of UCAS points, but these are essentially just points that let you get into university. So generally, people will do enough that in the future, if they wanted to, they can get to university. So now, if there's any questions that anyone has, I'll give you about 30 seconds just to think of them, and you can type them into our question and answer. And then my colleague Alex, who's on the call with me and has very kindly agreed to host, will ask any questions in about 30 seconds that come through. So you can ask anything about if you've not quite understood what a BTEC means, if you've not understood what college will be like, or just in general if you have a question about what is college like. So I think if we pass it over to Alex and he can read any questions that have come in.
Yes, we do have a few questions so far, and one is asking if a student is unsure about what sort of subjects they particularly enjoy or what they might want to do at, say, university, for example, would you recommend choosing a straight BTEC or a BTEC and A-level combined programme?
Sure. So if you're not quite sure what you enjoy, it might be worth looking at maybe your top 3-4 favourite subjects and seeing if they link to any particular career. You could do a combined programme. For example, you could do perhaps a BTEC in health and social care, and you could combine this with some A-levels that you might enjoy the subjects more at school. If you're really not sure of where to go, it might be worth speaking to the careers advisor in your school and seeing what they recommend you can do. And also talking to colleges, if you tell them your interests, your favourite subjects, they could give you an idea of what courses might suit that. Because as I mentioned, there are courses you probably never knew existed at colleges.
Lovely. We've got another question that's asking how long a BTEC takes to complete.
Sure. So if you took a BTEC level 3, which as I mentioned is equivalent to A-level, that would take generally about 2 years. Some people do them over 3 years, but the general time is 2 years for a BTEC extended diploma. And as I mentioned, if you combine that with A-levels, it's still generally 2 years.
Lovely. And then we've got another question that says, if someone chooses to study a BTEC diploma with a particular career in mind or a particular university course in mind, what happens if they then change their mind during the course of their BTEC? Would that put them at a disadvantage for applying for other university courses?
I suppose that does depend what university course you're looking to go into. But there's a lot of general skills you gain from BTECs, the same as you do from A-levels, that will be really beneficial to a university course. Now, as I said, it does depend. For example, if you'd picked a BTEC in ICT and then decided you wanted to go into engineering, it might be a bit difficult to change straight into that to go to a university programme. However, there are these things called access courses, which colleges do, and these are also at level 3 level, but are generally just 1 year, and these allow you to change subject almost and gain the points needed to get into university. And access courses are generally in subjects similar to what BTEC extended diplomas are, but maybe a bit more general so that you pick up all those skills for the university courses.
Now, we've actually got quite a few questions coming through, which is absolutely fantastic. So just to double check, do you think we'll have a bit more time for questions at the end, just in case I don't get through them all now?
Yeah, I think we'll have questions. I can make time for questions at the end, definitely.
Wonderful. What I'll do then is I'll just ask one more now, and then we can come back to any more at the end. And someone has asked, and I think what they are trying to say specifically is, what is the difference between a college-based environment and a sixth form environment?
Sure. So in general, it depends on where you go to sixth form. So the school you're at might have a sixth form itself, and that'll be probably within the same building, might have its own building, and will be quite similar to school. It might have the teachers you still know, but both sixth form, college and college are a bit more flexible, which means you won't be in college 9 till 5. You'll have breaks in the day, but generally colleges, as opposed to sixth forms, might have that bit more freedom. Colleges are generally larger and are also off-site. They're not at your school. It's all new people. You probably wear your own clothes, call the teachers by their first names. And the timetable can be quite spread out. You might have a couple of hours one day, a couple of hours the next day, or some colleges choose to put the subjects in blocks across a few days, and you might even have days off college. So overall, college is a really nice environment to work in. I would say you're treated quite like an adult and expected to get on with your work. But it's, in that sense, sixth form isn't too different. It's just whether you want to be studying more like in school with set exams and set coursework, or whether you want to be studying towards more of a career-based option.
Fantastic. So any questions that I haven't asked there, we will be coming back to at the end, so don't worry about that.
Wonderful. Okay, so for this next section, we're going to go through a few common choices at college level. Obviously, we can't cover every single course, so I've picked a few of the popular ones. And anything that you want to ask, you can get in touch with us afterwards, which I'll tell you how to at the end, and where you can go for more information. So health and social care is one that is quite popular at college level. At the moment, you'll be doing GCSE level study, so you might be doing biology, you might be doing core science, or you might even be doing a BTEC in health and social care already. People that like this route tend to go on to extended diplomas or diplomas in health and social care. Some might combine them with A-levels or just do the whole BTEC. So at higher education, people can go on to degrees in nursing or midwifery, as well as a whole range of healthcare subjects. These are just a couple of examples. And then the career they might go on to is midwife, a nurse, or a carer. So there's loads more examples I could have put in here, but this is like a typical path someone might take. And next we've got some data, which is hopefully really helpful for you. This is taken from the Pay Index platform, which we work with, and students can get access to if they ask through their teachers. And this shows that if you were interested in health and social care, it shows you the average first year salary of it. And then the one on the right shows you that if you did a degree in nursing and midwifery, the expected first year salary is actually 25,600, and that's also in our local area. So with this data, you can just get a sense of, if you did health and social care, what kind of salary you'd earn in the future. We then move on to childcare and education. Lots of schools don't necessarily offer a GCSE or a BTEC in education at this level. Some schools might be offering childcare or development, but the ones that are good to have for this are generally English and biology, subjects like that, just to get your 4s in those GCSEs. And at college, you might do a diploma in childcare or a diploma in education, and sometimes that's combined and is childcare and education. And then people can go on to a bachelor's degree, which just means a degree level qualification in education, or they might go into level 4 courses at a college, which is just a higher up qualification. With careers in this, you could be a teacher, nursery staff, or special educational needs staff in a school. But again, this is a really varied route and there's lots of different careers. So as we got a question before, what if it limits you? It doesn't necessarily limit you, because there are so many careers that usually link to the courses that are at colleges. So again, we've got an idea of the salary for this, but even though the starting salary is 17,900, we can see that on this, if you went to university, even just 4 years after graduation, you're earning quite a bit more than that. And 10 years after graduation, you're earning, again, a lot more than that. So if you took IT and computing, you might be doing IT at the moment at school, you might be doing a computing GCSE, and then there's all sorts of options at college level. So there's BTECs in ICT or computing. You could go on to a higher education course in application development, software engineering, or there's even things like game design now. For example, at Staffordshire University, there's games design. And then careers for IT are very varied, and this is a really expanding sector at the moment. So there's software developers, cryptographers, which is solving code and writing code, and IT technicians as well. So again, we've got sort of an example of what you might be earning on this with this pathway. all this data is available to you afterwards, and we can make sure that you have access to all this. So don't worry about understanding it too much now. So construction and engineering is quite a popular one at college. So for this, you might be doing product design, engineering at GCSE, or even just maths is a good one to have. And then you can do courses like construction or engineering BTECs at college. And now construction's an interesting one, because usually the courses at college aren't quite enough to get straight into university from construction. But that doesn't mean you can't go in the future. You'll just have to work through the leveled courses at college all the way up to getting a degree level course. And then in the future, if you went to university, you might become a construction site manager, or if you'd taken the engineering route, you might become a civil engineer. Now, I know we had quite a few questions, so we won't go through this data in detail. So we'll move on to performing arts, which is a really interesting one at college, because there's quite a lot of different courses in it. So there's stuff like, excuse me, there's stuff like music technology, dance, performing arts, and that's just a snapshot really, because you can do music as well. There's stuff like visual media, and these lead on to all sorts of courses at higher education. So you could do applied theatre, music technology, dance, and more generally universities will do things like performing arts, drama. So if you're interested in performing arts and that's what you love doing, there are courses out there for you, and they can lead on to all sorts of careers again, such as sound engineers, professional dancers, freelance actors. So it's just worth looking at what's out there for you and what you would enjoy the most. So finally, before we move on to summary and then time for questions, with creative arts subjects, this is such a broad one again, but generally at GCSE level, if you're interested in creative arts, you might currently be doing art and design, textiles or media studies. And at college level, you might look to go on to a BTEC diploma or extended diploma in art and design, fine art, fashion design, photography or media studies. I could go on with this. There are so many creative arts subjects at colleges, all which allow you to get a really good insight into what all the different methods and topics within creative arts. So at higher education, a lot of people take a foundation course after college in art and design, which is basically a year before university, which gets you up to scratch and feeling like you have all the skills to do the best you can do. And creative arts subjects, again, are so varied at university. For example, if we looked at Leeds College of Art and Design, you can do things such as comic book design, illustration. Lots of universities do fashion marketing. And this doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a fashion designer after university, although I've put that on as a career. You can also move into marketing, doing the photography for things. And careers like freelance artists and illustration people will be open to you. So just to summarise before we go back to questions, so vocational pathways are a really good option if you know you'd like to take a specific career path and you perhaps want more of a coursework based subject than an exam based subject. They give you a more in-depth experience of one subject and allow you to find out what your favourite parts of it are. But you can combine these with A-levels at some colleges, so it's worth checking if you want to do a mixture of subjects still. So thank you, I hope that helped everyone a little bit, get a sense of what vocational pathways after high school are, and we'll go back over to Alex if there's any questions.
Thank you, Melissa, that was brilliant, and hopefully that's given our viewers some food for thought. In terms of questions, we do have one that says, if you do, for example, fail any of your GCSEs that you might have sat, if you go to college to study a vocational route such as a BTEC, would there be an opportunity to resit any of your particularly core subjects like maths or English that you might have failed?
Yeah, so when you go to most colleges, most courses will require that you have those basic levels in English and maths. And colleges usually offer you the option to resit those. And it's not just a case of, right, do your courses again. They'll help you and put you in classes to help you learn the subject material again and get the support you need to pass those. And then after that, hopefully you pass the GCSE qualifications at college and you can get your full qualification there as well.
Brilliant. We've also got now some of these are a bit more particularly pathway based, so it might be a bit of a quiz for you. If someone was interested in becoming something like an animator or an author, so seems to be something in the creative arts there, what sort of pathway would you suggest for them?
So for an animator, at the moment I'd expect at GCSE you're probably doing something maybe like art and design, graphics or media studies. People that become animators at college generally tend to do perhaps graphic design, they might do visual media studies, or they might even do a mixture of creative arts, which is more of a general college course. And then they might progress to university, and there are courses in animation at lots of universities around the country. I know Staffordshire University, where in our local area, is known for its sort of animation creative arts courses. But even wider than that, Manchester Met University and all sorts of universities around the country do animation. So that's the kind of route they might take to become an animator.
Lovely. And then if someone, say for example, wanted to become a vet, what GCSE options would you, or level 4 qualifications, would you suggest they're starting to look at?
So to become a vet, generally, because veterinary science at university is quite a competitive course, universities would be looking for A-levels to become a vet. That doesn't mean you can't go to college, it just might take you a bit longer to get to university if you want to become a vet. So at GCSE you might want to look at doing definitely biology, so taking your sciences as triple science rather than combined, and making sure you have that biology. If you went on to then A-levels, you definitely need a biology A-level. And probably another science would be good to get into university for that. I believe to become a vet through college is quite, it is a longer route because they expect the sort of academic A-level route, but there are qualifications in animal care and things like that at college where you can work through. And that doesn't necessarily lead to vet, but there's other things such as animal technicians, veterinary technicians as well that relate to that you can get to through college.
Brilliant. And then I think we've got time for one final one before we might have to sign off. But what I'm also doing is, if you've asked a question, take a look, and I am typing in some replies in the Q&A channel as well. If someone doesn't want to go into higher education, but they've done a vocational route, what sort of pathways are available to them afterwards? Could they go straight into their chosen career path, or could they pursue an apprenticeship?
Yeah, definitely. So if you didn't want to go to higher education after college, you could definitely look at doing an apprenticeship. And it's interesting because there are apprenticeships out there that will still get you the university level qualification just through an apprenticeship. And also you can go straight into work after college and try and get a job in your chosen area. And it's worth noting there's no upper age limit on higher education. So say if you got to, 30 years old and decided, actually, I'd like to do a university level qualification, you can do. So there's no problem with working for a bit, doing an apprenticeship, and then deciding later on that that's what you want to do.
Wonderful, thank you for that. I'm going to test time a little bit and then go for one more question. If someone is particularly interested in becoming a police officer or a detective, what sort of pathway would you suggest for that?
So that's interesting because they're actually more different than you'd expect maybe. So for a police officer, now you do need a degree to become a police officer. So generally we'd recommend perhaps something like public services at college is a good one that police officers tend to take, as well as but because you become a police officer with any degree now, it actually doesn't matter too much what course you take, but public services is one where you definitely learn about the police, fire service, stuff like that. As well as that, as I said, you need to do a degree to become a police officer. And it's detective, you could do similar, but also A-levels is an option for that. Things like sciences, maths, English, literature. It's quite varied, to be honest, for stuff like that. And it depends if you want to be a forensic detective or a normal detective. So forensics would need more science-based subjects.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Melissa. If any of you have asked any other questions, you might see the responses being published in the Q&A channel. But as it's approaching, well, it's hit 9:30 now, I think it may be time for us to wrap up. So for that, I will hand you back over to Melissa.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex. So just to wrap up, there's quite a few questions through today, and if you'd like to ask any more, that will come straight through to me, Alex, and our colleagues. You can go to highhorizons.co.uk/ask, and you'll get you'll get pictures of our colleagues up and us, and you can click chat to me, and that comes through to us as an email. And it's all anonymous. You don't have to put your name in, and we don't see your name or any details, so you can send us questions and we can point you in the right direction. So hopefully your teachers have mentioned that we'd like feedback from this session. That's just to let us know if you liked it, what we can do better next time, and then we can run more sessions like this that will help you out. So thank you for listening. Any more questions, go to our website and we'll continue answering them in the Q&A. But thank you very much, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.